The rain in Portland does not fall so much as it suspends itself in the air, a gray weight that settles into the fibers of your wool coat and stays there until you're chilled to the bone. It isn't a storm, it's a state of being. In the autumn of 2014, the smell of damp cedar and wet pavement was the permanent backdrop to my life, a scent so pervasive it felt like it had seeped into my very skin. I sat in my father's study, a room that always seemed to be holding its breath. The radiator was clicking with a rhythmic, metallic heartbeat, a steady tink, tink, tink that marked the passage of seconds in a house where time had otherwise begun to pool and stagnate. The temperature in the room hovered at a precise 64 degrees. I knew this because I had checked the thermostat 3 times since lunch. I liked the cold. It felt disciplined. It felt like a sharp edge, something to lean against when the world started to feel soft and blurred. It felt like the kind of environment where one could make rational, adult decisions about the end of a life. Not an ending in the final biological sense, but the winding down of an era, the transition from a home to a managed asset. On the mahogany desk sat a single porcelain coaster. It was white, bone white, rimmed with a thin, unassuming line of gold that had begun to wear thin in a few places. It was a gift from my mother, part of a set that had survived 40 years of tea and silent arguments, 40 years of afternoon sunlight and winter shadows. I watched it for a moment before I placed my mug of Earl Grey on it, centering it perfectly so the edges of the ceramic aligned with the gold rim. I was 68 years old, and I prided myself on the fact that I did not let things slide. I didn't believe in good enough. I believed in precision. I smoothed the fabric of my gray slacks, my palms moving over my lap in a slow, deliberate rhythm to iron out wrinkles that weren't there. It had become my only form of meditation, this tactile assurance that things were flat, even, and under control. Across from me, the contract from the agency lay open. It was 42 pages of heavy, cream-colored bond paper, the kind of paper that feels expensive between your thumb and forefinger. It promised comprehensive elder solutions. The font was a dignified serif, the kind that whispered of old money and institutional reliability. It used words like fiduciary, holistic, and security, words that acted like a sedative. For $6,500 a month, a staggering sum, but one I paid with a sense of relief, a woman named Elena would live in the guest suite. She would handle the medications. She would manage the grocery lists, ensuring the pantry was stocked with the low-sodium broths and the specific brand of crackers my father favored. She would be the physical presence I could no longer provide. My own life, 300 miles away in a sterile, sun-drenched condo in California, demanded my attendance. Or perhaps more accurately, I demanded to be there, away from the weeping skies of Oregon and the slow, agonizing friction of my father's decline. I believed that a high-priced contract was a better guarantee of safety than my own physical presence. I believed in the power of the transaction. If you paid enough, you weren't just buying labor, you were buying a result. You were buying the right not to worry. "The agency is bonded, Marcus," I said, my voice cutting through the silence of the study. It sounded thinner than I expected. My son was sitting on the edge of the mahogany desk, swinging one leg with the restless, nervous energy. Marcus was 40 then, but in the dim light of the study, with the rain blurring the window behind him, he still carried the air of someone waiting for a teacher to tell him he could go to recess. He was a man of shortcuts, Marcus. He had a way of looking at a problem, a broken sink, a tax bill, a dying parent, and finding the easiest path around it. Usually this involved a digital workaround, some new app or automated system that left the actual physical problem intact while providing a glossy interface that suggested it was being handled. "They're the best in the Pacific Northwest," Marcus said. He wasn't looking at me. He was looking at his phone, his thumb flicking upward in a repetitive motion that mimicked my own habit of smoothing my slacks. "I've checked the reviews. I've set everything up on the portal. The wire transfers are automated, Mom. It's a closed system. I've even redirected the mail to a P.O. box near my office so Dad doesn't get overwhelmed by the junk. You know how he gets with the catalogs. He starts trying to order things he doesn't need." "And you'll check it?" I asked, leaning forward. "The mail, you'll check it every week?" "Weekly," he said, his voice flat, already bored with the conversation. He didn't check it. Not weekly, not monthly. Marcus treated the P.O. box like a digital archive, something to be accessed only when an error message appeared or when the system failed to reset itself. He lived in a world of dashboards and notifications. He believed that if the money was moving, the world was turning. If the green light on the portal was lit, the house was standing, the old man was breathing, and the bill was paid. I believed him because it was convenient. I believed him because it allowed me to board my flight back to San Diego without the weight of the Portland rain in my luggage. I could fly south over the clouds and leave the gray weight behind, replaced by the digital assurance that everything was being managed. The house was a Queen Anne, built in 1904. It had survived the Spanish flu, 2 world wars, and the rise and fall of the timber industry. Its crowning glory, the thing my father had polished every Sunday for 50 years, was the front door. It was hand-carved mahogany, 3 inches thick, with a leaded glass insert that threw rainbows across the foyer when the rare Oregon sun hit it just right. It was a heavy, magnificent thing. It didn't just close, it sealed. When you pulled it shut, there was a deep, resonant thud, followed by the metallic click of the deadbolt. It sounded like a vault. It sounded like safety. When I left that day in 2014, I pulled that door shut and felt the finality of the latch. I stood on the porch for a moment, listening to the silence of the house behind the wood. I felt a sense of closure. The contract was signed, the portal was active. Be Elena of the brochure, a woman I had only seen in a small, grainy profile picture, was now the steward of my history. The transition was seamless. That was the beauty of it. That was the trap. Every Tuesday morning, like clockwork, an automated email arrived from the Elite Care portal. I would sit on my balcony in San Diego, the smell of salt air and jasmine replacing the scent of damp cedar, and I would open my iPad. The email was always the same format: professional, clean. It contained a bulleted list of my father's vitals. Blood pressure, 130/80. Sleep, 7 hours. Mood, stable. I would scroll through these numbers while looking out at the Pacific, watching the surfers catch the morning breaks. I felt a sense of profound competence. I wasn't a daughter struggling with the messy, undignified reality of a parent's aging. I was a project manager. I was overseeing a successful operation. I was managing his decline with the same efficiency I had once used to manage a legal firm. I communicated with Alina exclusively through the portal's messaging system. I told myself it was for the sake of documentation, but the truth was simpler. I didn't want to talk to her. I didn't want to hear her voice, and I certainly didn't want to hear my father's voice in the background, crackling with confusion. Her responses were always brief, always professional, exactly what I expected from a $6,000 a month service. "Mr. Sterling enjoyed the garden today. We set out for 20 minutes before the mist came in. Mr. Sterling's appetite is improving. He had the poached salmon for dinner." I never asked to hear him. To hear him would be to invite the tremor in his voice, the long, hollow silences that chewed up my afternoons and left me feeling drained. The wire transfers went out on the 1st of every month. I would see the notification on my phone: transfer successful. The money left my account, traveled through the ether, and landed in the agency's ledger. It was a closed loop, a perfect, frictionless system of care. But beneath the digital surface, the physical world was beginning to rot. By the spring of 2015, the porcelain coaster on the mahogany desk in Portland was no longer white. If I had been there, I would have seen the change. It had developed a tea-colored patina, a ring of brown that had soaked into the microscopic cracks of the glaze where it hadn't been washed in months. It sat under a stack of urgent notices from the Multnomah County tax assessor. The gold ram was dull, obscured by a layer of fine gray dust. Marcus hadn't checked the P.O. box in 4 months. He told me he was busy with the rebranding, a vague, corporate-sounding phrase he used whenever he was between jobs and sleeping until noon in his cluttered apartment. He assumed that the portal was sending the updates, the administrative side of my father's life was also being handled. He assumed the comprehensive, in Comprehensive Elder Solutions, covered the taxes, the utilities, the very ground the house stood on. I didn't know about the taxes. I didn't know about the liens that were being quietly filed against the property. I didn't know that the Elena who sent me messages about salmon and gardens was a script, a series of pre-programmed sentences designed to trigger a sense of security in a paying client. I knew only what the portal told me, and the portal told me that everything was perfect. Elena is a godsend, I told my friends at the club over salads and chilled white wine. She's even helping him with his estate paperwork. It's so much easier for him to talk to a neutral party. You know how fathers and daughters can be. It's all so much more professional this way. I took a sip of my wine and felt a glow of satisfaction. I had solved the problem of aging. I had solved the problem of family. I had automated my obligations. The smell of the house had changed by the time I returned in July of 2015. I hadn't planned the visit. It was a whim, a sudden urge to see the Queen Anne in the height of summer, to see those rainbows in the foyer one more time. But as I stepped onto the porch, the air felt different. It wasn't the scent of cedar or even the dampness of the rain. It was something sharper, more aggressive. It was the smell of ammonia and cheap floral perfume, the kind used to mask something sour. The sound of the radiator had stopped. It was July, so that was to be expected, but the house felt cold regardless. It wasn't the disciplined cold I had liked in the autumn. This was a damp, subterranean chill that seemed to move up through the floorboards and settle in my joints. I let myself in with my key. I noticed something immediately, a physical sensation that bypassed my brain and went straight to my gut. The mahogany door felt lighter. When I turned the key and pushed, it didn't have that vault-like resistance. It didn't push back with the weight of a century of history. It swung open easily, almost flimsily, and the sound it made against the frame was a hollow, tinny clack instead of a solid thud. The foyer was empty. Not just empty of people, but empty of life. The Persian rug, a deep indigo and crimson piece that had been under our feet since I was a child, was gone. The floorboards were bare and scarred, showing the pale rectangles where the furniture had once stood. "Elena?" I called out. My voice echoed. The acoustics of the house had changed. The fabric that absorbed sound, the curtains, the rugs, the upholstery was missing. The silence was absolute. No ticking clock, no television, no sound of a chair scraping against the floor. I walked into the study. My heart was a frantic bird in my chest. I looked at the mahogany desk, or what was left of it. The surface was ruined. There was a puddle of standing water where a window had been left cracked open, the wood beneath it swollen and black with rot. The porcelain coaster was on the floor. It was chipped now, a jagged piece of the gold rim missing where it had been dropped or perhaps kicked across the room. There was no mug on it. There was only the dust and the damp. My father's chair, the heavy leather wingback where he had spent his retirement reading history books, was empty. It wasn't just empty, it was gone. In its place was a folding metal chair, cold and utilitarian. I found Marcus in the kitchen. He was standing by the sink, staring at a stack of papers he had finally, belatedly, retrieved from the P.O. box. The kitchen smelled of rotting lemons and something else. Something like old grease. Marcus looked small. In the harsh fluorescent light of the kitchen, he looks like the boy who once broke a neighbor's window with a baseball and tried to tape the glass back together, believing that if he could just make it look right, it wouldn't be broken. "The agency doesn't exist, Mom," he said. His voice was a flat, dead thin. It didn't have the energy of a confession. It was the sound of a man who had already collapsed inside. "Of course it exists," I said. My hands went instinctively to my lap, but I was standing, so there was nothing to smooth. I gripped the edge of the laminate counter instead. "I've been paying them for 14 months, Marcus. I have the receipts. I have the emails from Alina. I have the vitals. Every Tuesday, 1:30 over 80. Every single week." "The portal is a skin, Mom," Marcus said, finally looking up. His eyes were red-rimmed. "It's a template. You can buy the software for $50 on the dark web. It's designed for private wealth management, or that's what they call it. You input the names, you set the schedule, and the script does the rest. It generates random vitals within a healthy range. It pulls phrases from a database to make it sound personal." I shook my head. The wire transfers weren't going to a business account, Mom. They were going to a private holding company in the Cayman Islands. It was a shell. Everything was a shell. I stood in the center of the kitchen, the smell of rotting lemons filling my lungs. I felt a sudden, dizzying sense of vertigo, as if the floorboards were finally giving way. "Where is your grandfather?" "He's at the state facility, in Gresham. They picked him up 6 weeks ago. A neighbor called it in, a wellness check. They reported a case of extreme neglect. No heat, no food, the house in disarray. He was dehydrated, Mom. He didn't know what year it was." "The house," I stammered. We'll get him back here. We'll hire someone real. We'll fix the desk." "The house was sold at a sheriff's auction 3 days ago," Marcus said. He held up a piece of paper, a final notice of sale. "The taxes hadn't been paid since you left. And then there was the deed." "The deed?" "He signed the deed transfer, Mom," Marcus said, his voice cracking. "He signed it over to a private caregiver in exchange for lifelong tenancy. A man named Miller. He thought he was making it easier for us. He thought he was taking the burden off our shoulders. But the caregiver wasn't Elena. There is no Elena. Miller is gone. He sold the house to a developer the minute the deed cleared." I walked back to the front door. I had to touch it. I had to understand. I ran my hand over the carving, but the texture was wrong. The wood felt dry, brittle, like a piece of driftwood that had been baked in the sun. It didn't have the deep, oily luster of mahogany. I looked at the hinges. They weren't the heavy, blackened iron hinges that had been there for a century. They were new. They were cheap brass hinges that didn't belong on a 100-year-old door. They were held in by screws that hadn't even been driven in straight. "The door," I said, my voice barely a whisper. "They sold it," Marcus said, from the kitchen, his voice trailing me like a ghost. "The architectural salvage guys came last week. A door like that? Hand-carved mahogany from 1904? It's worth $10,000 on its own. They replaced it with a hollow core slab before the new owners took possession, just enough to keep the rain out until the bulldozers arrive." I realized then why the door had felt so light. It wasn't the door I had grown up behind. It wasn't the door my mother had decorated with wreaths every Christmas. It was a shell, a prop, a piece of plywood painted to look like a legacy. I had been paying for a ghost to haunt my father's house. I had been paying for the privilege of being lied to. I had bought a digital screen and placed it over the reality of a dying man, and I had called it Comprehensive Elder Solutions. I went to the state facility the next morning. The transition from the cool, damp ruins of the house to the facility was a physical assault. The smell hit me first, a thick, cloying mixture of industrial bleach and boiled cabbage. It was the smell of institutional survival, of bodies being kept alive through sheer chemical force. The sound was a low, constant moan. Not from a person, but from a television in the common room that was turned up too loud, broadcasting a game show to a room full of people who weren't watching. The temperature was a stifling, humid 80 degrees. It was the opposite of my father's study. It was a heat that felt wet, a heat that made your clothes stick to your skin and made it hard to draw a full breath. I found him in the corner of the common room. My father was sitting in a plastic chair, the kind you see in waiting rooms or high school cafeterias. He looked like a man made of gray paper. His skin was translucent, mapped with a web of blue veins that seemed too fragile to hold blood. He was wearing a gown that was too large for him, the fabric bunched at his shoulders. "Dad," I said. He didn't look up. He was staring at his hands, his fingers moving in a slow, phantom rhythm, as if he were trying to remember how to hold a pen or a tea mug. "Dad, it's me." He looked at me then. For a second, his eyes were clouded, unfocused, lost in the fog of whatever medications they had him on to keep him stable. But then, something shifted. His eyes cleared for a brief, agonizing second. A flash of the man who had taught me how to calculate compound interest on a chalkboard in the garage. The man who had insisted on the precision of 64 degrees. "Why didn't you call me?" I asked. I could feel the tears now, hot and shameful. I was waiting for a call. I was right there. I was only a flight away. He looked at me with a profound, quiet sadness. "I thought you were the ones sending the emails," he said. The words were soft, but they hit me with the force of a blow. He didn't mean he thought I was the scammer. He meant he thought the silence was mine. He thought the professional, automated updates, the cold, bulleted lists of his vitals, were my way of communicating with him. He thought after 68 years, our relationship had been distilled into a monthly transaction. He thought I had replaced my voice with a portal. He had signed the papers Miller put in front of him because Miller was the only person who touched his shoulder. Miller was the only person who looked him in the eye, even if it was the look of a predator. He had given away his home because he thought the Elena on the screen was the only version of me that was left. I went back to the house one last time before the locks were changed, before the sheriff's seal was finalized. The developers were already there, moving through the rooms with clipboards and rolls of blue tape. They were marking the walls, marking the floors, deciding which parts of my history were salvageable and which were trash. I found the porcelain coaster in the bottom of a cardboard box labeled trash near the back door. It was covered in gray dust and a sticky residue from the leaked rainwater. The gold rim was gone completely now, worn away by the friction of being moved from one pile of rubble to another. I picked it up. It felt light. It felt like nothing. I didn't take it. I didn't want it. I put it back in the box and walked out onto the porch. I stood there for a long time looking at the hollow core door. It was painted a bright, aggressive white, the kind of color that's designed to look clean from a distance, but feels cheap up close. It looked like it belonged in a motel or a temporary construction shed. It didn't belong on a Queen Anne. I realized that I had gotten exactly what I asked for. I had wanted a life without wrinkles. I had wanted a world managed by contracts and wire transfers, a world where the messiness of human suffering could be bridged by a well-designed portal and a six-figure salary. I had smoothed the fabric of my life, ironed out every discomfort, every duty, every heavy mahogany moment, until there was nothing left to hold on to. I had automated my heart, and in the process, I had let the wolves in through the front door. The rain started again, that familiar Portland mist that hangs in the air like a shroud. I walked to my car, and I didn't look back. I couldn't. If I looked back, I would have to see the house for what it was. Not a home, not a sanctuary, but a hollow shell waiting to be demolished. My father died 3 weeks later. The official cause was failure to thrive, a medical term that sounds like a judgment. I think he just realized that the emails had stopped and he didn't want to see what came next. The house is a condo complex now, 24 units with modern finishes and smart home integration. I've seen the photos online. They look sterile, they look efficient, they look like the kind of place where nothing ever goes wrong because nothing ever truly happens. I'm back in San Diego now. I sit on my balcony and watch the sun go down over the water. My iPad is in my lap, but I don't open the portals anymore. I don't check the vitals of my life. I just sit there and I smooth the wrinkles on my lap. Over and over. My palms move across the fabric, searching for a snag, searching for a bump, searching for something real to feel. But the fabric is always smooth. It's always perfect. And I have never been more alone.